Let go.
All right. And so today is, what is it? Thursday, May the 7th. I'm talking to actually one of my good friends. I don't actually get a chance to talk to people on the podcast often. I've known her for at least 12 years now at this point, I think, maybe longer at this point. But we go back. We actually went to college together at Georgia State. She is a superstar in her own right. Yeah. She's the person who's done every single thing you kind of want to do in the media space. At this point, I mean, I'm serious about that. And she's now an entrepreneur, and she's doing pretty good at it. And so this one, you might see her on social media. Her name is Ashley Renee. She goes by Hey Renee on the gram, or Hey Ashley Renee on the gram. And so we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but one of the things I'm really impressed with her is that she's managed to make every single pivot successful. And so she's going to just break down how she's made each and every pivot successful, and now how we're pivoting in COVID-19. So, all right. So, Ash, can you let them know who you are and what you do?
Hey y'all, my name is Ashley Renee. I go by Hey Ashley Renee on the interwebs, and I am a sustainable and vegan lifestyle coach. So basically I teach my audience, my community, anybody who really wants to learn how to sustainably, make changes in their lives to, be more eco-friendly, have, better health. And I kind of like sum it up like this. I teach people how to have a healthier body, home, and planet, because everything's connected in ways that a lot of people don't think, right? So we don't think that, our health of our own bodies is connected to the planet, but it 100% is. So I sum all of that up under the concept of sustainability. So that's kind of my niche.
Okay. But it's taken some steps to get here. And can you explain to people how what that looks like for your career?
Woo! Gosh, I swear I have angels on my side or something, because it's like I've always been exactly where I was supposed to when I was supposed to. When I first started, I was in a completely different niche. So when I first started, I was in corporate America in video production. I've been very consistent my whole life. Like, I've always been a creative since I was a child. So it was only natural that I went into the video production space, starting when I was, I think as soon as I graduated, actually. Before I graduated, I started working at the Weather Channel. I had an internship there when I was 19, and then they hired me right out of college. So my entire career in corporate was all video production. Started out as a producer at the Weather Channel, then I became a video editor for HomeDepot.com, and then a senior video editor and an on-camera personality randomly for WebMD until I quit. So I quit my job in 2017 because I wanted to start my own brand, but it didn't happen overnight. It started all the way back in 2014, I think, is when I published my first blog post. So it's something that I had been working towards. I started a little mastermind entrepreneur group, and that's kind of how it started. And I remember the first meeting, we all just kind of sat in a circle and talked about what we wanted to do. And at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just like, I just want to do something. I don't know. I just feel like there was this void, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I just knew that I wanted to do something else outside of corporate. And so we just went around talking about our interests, and I said, I really love to travel. My two main passions are travel and video production. And somebody said, well, why don't you start a travel blog? And I was like, well, that's a good idea. Why don't I? And so I did. I started a travel blog right then and there. And so that was around 2013, 2014. And then I started a mastermind group, a small mastermind group with just two of my friends. And so one was Sharina. She wanted to become an author. And the other person, his name was Mike, and he wanted to leave his career as, I forgot what he was doing, maybe web development, and he wanted to be a product manager. So we all had our individual goals, and we just held each other accountable. Every single week we would meet up, and we'd have a meeting, and we'd talk about our progress, we'd talk about our goals, we'd answer each other's questions. Even though we all had completely different skill sets, backgrounds, and goals, I think that's kind of what made our group work, was that we were all able to step outside of what we did to offer different perspectives and unique perspectives based on our individual skill sets. And that group, I honestly attribute to me being where I am today, because at one point, when you're an entrepreneur, when you have big dreams, there's going to come a time when you just feel like giving up. And there was a time when I felt like giving up. I was doing all this travel blogging, and I was becoming burnt out. I didn't feel like it was going anywhere. And so I got really comfortable in my new corporate position at WebMD. And I stopped for like a full year. I wasn't doing any travel blogging. And then they just kind of sat me down and they had an intervention. They were like, hey, what are you doing? Like you had something going, you were building something beautiful, like keep up with it, keep it going. And so I did. So I got back into travel blogging, and what happened was I ended up going to my first travel conference, and it was a conference for people who, you know, wanted to be in the travel industry, bloggers, vloggers, you know, writers, influencers, whatever you wanted to do. If it was travel related, you were at this conference. And I was so motivated by the keynote speaker. Her name was Nadine, and her YouTube name was Hey Nadine. She was this big YouTuber, and she basically made a living off of just making travel videos. And it inspired me. And I said, well, this is my niche. Like this is my skill set. I know how to produce videos. So why don't I start documenting my travels and like really getting serious about it? And that was 2016. So I did. I put out my very first series. It was my travels to Peru. It was a 6-part series, just breaking down all the tips that I had for how to travel through Peru. And it did really well. And a couple months later, a producer said that they wanted to pitch me to the Travel Channel. And that's ultimately what inspired me to end up quitting the following year, because I said to myself, okay, even though they ultimately, long story short, they were like, we're not interested. Like, we love your stuff, but you have no TV experience, and we want people who have TV experience. And some people, when they hear a no, they hear a no, and then they stop. But when I hear a no, I just hear not right now, or not with you. But that doesn't mean that I can't go somewhere else or take it further or expound upon it. So I said, you know what, just the mere fact that somebody thought that I was good enough to be pitched to the Travel Channel means that there's potential there. So that was the summer of 2016. And then in April of 2017, I quit. And I went full force with it. But even though I had all this success in the travel space, at some point, I felt like something was missing, because even though I loved to travel, that didn't represent like who I was. Travel was just something that I did. It wasn't who I was. It's not who I am. It's just an activity that I really love to do. And when I really started to think about it, I was like, I can't see myself traveling for the rest of my life and talking about traveling for the rest of my life. So I said, I really want to share like my life and like what I'm passionate about, like who I am as a person. And who I am as a person is somebody who's on a mission to, you know, help end animal exploitation. I'm trying to teach people how to be more sustainable. You know, I'm showing people, especially Black people, that, hey, you can like have a Tesla, you can have a smart home, you can have all these things that are typically dubbed as, you know, white only activities or, you know, things. But no, like this is for everybody. This is for Black communities too. So these are all things that I was living every day that I wasn't sharing with my audience, but it's what I really wanted to dedicate my life to. So I decided to pivot, and it's crazy because like timing is everything. I pivoted in 2019, and I swear it's like almost like the universe, two things, wanted to affirm that that was the direction that I was supposed to be going in, and two, wanted to reward me for having the courage to pivot from an industry that was at its peak. And so now we're in COVID-19 and the travel industry is suffering heavily. And if I hadn't pivoted when I did, I'd be suffering right along with it. So my decision to pivot ended up ultimately helping me in so many different ways, especially as we're in this pandemic right now.
Right. And so I want to actually jump way further ahead right now. So like, how has like the pandemic affected just like that space so far from what you've seen?
Ooh, gosh, you know what? A lot of people are struggling, and it's kind of sad because, you know, these are all colleagues of mine, right? Because these are all people that I kind of grew with as I was growing my brand in the travel space, and I'm seeing them struggle so much with how to fit into this new normal, and they don't know how to do it. You know, and I feel where they're coming from, because it would be easy for me to just say, hey, just pivot, you know, but when I really think about it, like it took me a while to develop the courage to pivot. It's not easy. It's not easy to change something that you're doing, that you're used to, that you're familiar with, that you're comfortable with, and completely switch gears. Now, I have what's called an adaptive personality. So I'm the type of person where when a big change occurs, I can change at the drop of a dime. There was a phrase that I learned when I was younger, which was, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent who survive, it's those who are able to adapt to change. If you can adapt to change, then you can survive. But a lot of people are struggling to survive because they don't know how to switch, pivot, and adapt to these new circumstances. So, I think a lot of people kind of thought that this was just going to be a temporary thing when it first happened, but now they're seeing that as the months go by, as the months go by, they're realizing that this is going to have a long-term impact. Like, for every day that things stay closed, it has a longer impact down the line on, consumers and whether or not they're ready to trust the travel industry again. People don't really feel like traveling. And then there's the economic impact where, because, people are losing their jobs, they don't have the money to travel, because you need money to travel. It's not a cheap thing. And it's usually seen as kind of like this luxury thing. It's usually seen as something that you reward yourself with. So it's kind of becoming a low priority for a lot of people. So people aren't interested in traveling right now. It's not a priority for them because their priority is now saving their money. So it's having long-term effects on not only, the big brands who are, travel brands like, airlines, hotels, but it's also having an impact on like the influencers who advertise these brands, right? Because these brands, A, they're losing money, so they don't have the money to pay influencers anymore. And B, if people aren't traveling, then they're not trying to ramp up their marketing efforts. So it's affecting a lot of different people.
All right, so I want to ask you for a second on the influencer space. You're probably the only person I know, or at least I've interviewed, who is like actually involved in the influencer space in a real meaningful way. So can you explain to people what that means?
Yeah. So remember when I said that at some point I felt like there was just something missing with my brand. I loved travel, and I think in the beginning it was meaningful to me because I think especially like as a Black traveler, there were a lot of people, especially Black people, who felt like traveling wasn't for them. Back in the day, travel was seen as this thing that, mostly white people did. You didn't often see ads with Black people traveling the world. It wasn't as popular of an idea. And I even have a really close friend, Sharina, my friend Sharina. She told me back when we were in our 20s, she was like, I didn't know that I could travel until I saw you doing it. Like, you inspired me to start traveling. I didn't know that was a thing that we did. So at the time, it felt like it had meaning. So, I was encouraging people to try something that they've never done before. But then the travel industry just blew up. And before I knew it, it wasn't seen as this thing that was reserved for rich people. Now you had all these different niches. You had budget travel, you had luxury travel, you had hostel travel, you had all these different types of travel. The Black industry boomed with big companies like Nomadic Travel Tribe and Travel Noir, really putting Black travel on the map. And, Nomadic Travel Tribe, the creator of Nomadic Travel Tribe, Evita Robinson, she came up with the first travel festival for people of color. And so, you had travel that was now on the map. And so I guess I started to feel like I kind of didn't really have a place in the travel industry anymore. I didn't feel like there was as much of a need for me to push this message because people were starting to get it. And on top of that, I was starting to feel the heavy weight of, because travel was increasing, you were starting to see some really damaging effects. And, we can deny it all we want, but it's true. Like, tourism has an insane impact on the environment, and not just the environment, but also local populations. You're starting to see, local cultural traditions being, whitewashed and commodified in ways that are no longer authentic. You're starting to see, almost seemingly irreversible environmental damage being done to a lot of these countries. You're starting to see different cities being affected by over tourism. And so I started feeling like what I was doing was contributing more to the problem. And so I decided to pivot because I wanted to start talking about sustainable travel and teaching people like how they could travel more sustainably so that they weren't, causing as big of an impact, a negative impact on local populations and the environment when they travel. And that was great for a while. But like I said, I started feeling like that was still just such a small part of my life because I wasn't traveling 24/7. So I started thinking of ways that I could really make an impact, because impact was starting to mean more to me than brand deals. It was starting to mean more to me than, my follower count. When I first started, I think I didn't really know what I was doing or what direction I was going in or why I was really doing this. But as I started getting more comfortable with my why, I started to focus more on the impact that I was having. What's my legacy going to be? What do I really want to be known for? What kind of change do I want to create in my community that's positive, and can really make a difference? So I decided that I would stop just talking about travel and start talking about sustainability in all aspects of your life, because I wanted to reach people who weren't just traveling, but people who were, at home. How can you be more sustainable in your home and in your own community, and without ever stepping foot into an airport? So I really wanted to teach people how to live more sustainable lives, period. Whether you're traveling or at home, I wanted to, teach people how they can have healthier homes, how they can have, better health, and how they can contribute to, being better stewards of the planet overall, no matter where you are in your life or what you're doing, and where you are. So that's kind of what I've just dedicated my life to. And it's just been incredible. It's like, I feel so much better about what I'm doing, because I feel like what I'm doing is really making a difference, and it's aligned with what I'm passionate about, what I care about. And I feel like it has the potential to really make a difference. And I think the cool thing about pivoting is that I didn't build my audience off of this topic. So that means that I'm actually teaching people who have no idea about, plant-based living, or they don't really understand sustainability. I'm teaching them a completely new concept. And I feel so much satisfaction when I get messages like, wow, I never thought about that. Or you made me start wanting to be more, eco-friendly. You inspired me to stop using plastic bags. You inspired me, to start repurposing things. And so I'm getting all these messages from people who never had the idea of sustainability on their radar, or who thought that they couldn't, make plant-based meals. I'm just getting all these messages of people who are being positively impacted by the messages that I'm sending. And it makes me feel really good, and lets me know that I did the right thing.
Right. And okay, so this is, as you guys can see, there's like real passion with everything Ashley says.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been tight for so long. But the thing is, I want to actually come back a minute, if you don't mind, which is this thing about brand deals, right? Can you walk people before pre-COVID-19, what a brand deal actually looks like?
Yeah. So I feel like every year my business goals change. So 2019, my business goal was to dominate at brand deals. And so what a brand deal is when you are a content creator, an influencer, a blogger, if you have some kind of, influence in a particular community, you have the opportunity to get sponsored by really big businesses and really small businesses. You just have the opportunity to sell an ad, or to basically advertise to your audience, a product or a service that another brand has. And so the reason why people like using influencers and, content creators, and anybody with a platform for that, is because, like, when you create a commercial, think about when you create a commercial and it plays on TV, it's not targeted to anyone in particular. There's no way to really control who it's reaching, because, all different kinds of people watch Insecure, all different kinds of people, watch Blackish, all different kinds of people watch whatever, show it is you're watching on TV. But when you use somebody who has a specific platform and a specific niche, now you can target a very specific audience. So if you are a food company, you can work with a food blogger. If you're a travel company, you can work with a travel influencer. So, brands have this really unique opportunity to have direct access to an audience that's interested in what they have to sell. So it was interesting, because 2019 was the year where I hit my revenue goal. Like I wanted to reach 6 figures for the first time, and I did. But it was an interesting year, because it was the year where I was transitioning. So it's like I had all these advertisers who were travel brands, but then I also had all these advertisers who were in like green living spaces. So, sustainability, green technology, vegan related. So it's like I had all these different platforms, or all these different types of brands who were reaching out to me. And I definitely wanted to get to a point where I was exclusively working with the brands that were more in line with where I was headed versus, what my old path was. So I finally got to a place where, I don't really advertise anything on my platform that doesn't really serve my audience. So if it's travel related, the only way I'll really work with a travel brand is if it's like a sustainable travel company, or they have like some kind of message geared towards sustainability or veganism. Even like destinations, because my old business model was I used to, work with tourism boards a lot and hotels, and, go to particular cities and advertise people's cities. And I'm like, okay, well, if I do that now, it's got to be to like review your vegan restaurants or something like that. So, I try to make sure that everything that I do, it's not just because you're giving me a paycheck. It's because I think it will serve my audience in a meaningful way. But that's basically how the whole brand deal thing works.
Right, because I know there's some people who are going to ask me, okay, so I don't get it. Like let's say somebody who sees your page, when they go look at it, they're going to see it's very like tailored, it's very curated, it's very much.
Yeah.
No, but it really does. It has a direction. Even your YouTube channel has a very clear aesthetic and like content direction. So how did you even get to that point, like of just making sure that the content and the visual and everything else is all matching up?
I always go back to, my why. So I know what my overall message is, right? So if my overall message is sustainability, it's plant-based living, it's, having this like holistic lifestyle, I try very hard to evoke a feeling of, plants, of sustainability, of, being eco-friendly. So, you can even like scroll through my Instagram page and see how like the colors, the aesthetics of my feed have changed drastically. Yeah. So back when I was doing travel, I had like a pink and teal theme. So like everything, because I was outside taking a lot of travel photos. So I had like this, it was just like this very whimsical, aesthetic. But then when I started pivoting to green living, you could see that now the dominant color in my feed is green, and a very specific type of green. And that's to kind of evoke this feeling of, the earth and wanting to be earth friendly. So with everything that I've done, with every niche that I've been in, with every message that I have, aesthetics play a big role in it, because it all works together. When people come to my page, I want them to know immediately what my page is about, what I'm about, what they're going to get out of it, how they're going to, benefit from following me. And so I use aesthetics to do that, because like I want it to be an experience for people. Like I want people, like I said, I'm really focused on impact right now. So when people come to my page, I want them to feel like they're really going to be a part of the community, like they're going to learn something, like they're going to, be inspired to be a planeteer when they come to my page, or, take control of their health with plant-based eating. So, you achieve all that through a really nice aesthetic, and through, putting out information and specific images and, great captions that are designed to really help people and make an impact, and even catch their attention to even want them to hit that follow button in the first place. But if somebody goes to your page and everything's kind of like just all over the place, they might not be inspired to hit the follow button to learn that information that you have to share with them. So
now inspired me to clean up my page today.
It just needs to be inviting. And so I know I went to an Instagram, I went to an Instagram like masterclass that was actually hosted by Instagram. I want to say a couple months ago. And it was funny because
that's a low flight, but continue.
It was pretty cool. It was the Share Black Stories event. It was during Black History Month. So Instagram was in town, and they had an event called Share Black Stories. And they hosted like this big master class, giving like, I guess, insider tips on, how to dominate Instagram. And one of the tips that they gave was to not care about your aesthetic so much. And so it like cut me in my stomach a little bit. I was like, oh, but that's like, it's so hard for me to not care about my aesthetic.
You have a good aesthetic, so I want to keep it there. It's a
Thank
good
you.
Okay, and so I'm going to ask you a question now, because I know my mom is going to listen to this in particular, and she really, really wants to learn. But she's going to want to know, all right, so can you walk people through like the platforms themselves? And like some people still are kind of like confused on platforms, or might just be overwhelming to them.
Yeah. Every platform is so different. And that's why I tell people, don't try to dominate on every single platform, because it's hard. Like I usually just focus on one or two, like the ones that I'm really passionate about, the ones that I know I have time for and can have the greatest impact. Like, for example, Twitter is not my ministry, but you dominate Twitter. You are so great at Twitter. You are always on there sharing posts and sharing great information. And you'll be lucky if you get one tweet of me out a month, a month.
This is true. This is
I don't know. It's just not my platform. I'm a very visual person. So I'm not really all about the words. I'm not great with words, but I'm great at taking a photo. I'm great at putting a video together. So I tend to dominate at, really strong visual platforms because I'm a creative. So I've been a creative since I was a kid. So that's like my comfort zone. So Instagram and YouTube are the two platforms that bring me the most joy and that I know I can really kind of like dip into my skill set to show off my strengths. So, but they're very different. So like I said, like Twitter's different from your Twitter strategy is going to be different from your Instagram strategy. Your Instagram strategy is going to be different from your YouTube strategy. Your YouTube strategy is going to be different from your Facebook strategy. So for Instagram, for example, it's mostly photography and video and, captions and, storytelling in your captions. And so what I tell people is, even though it's a very like visual platform and you think that people are just scrolling through and hitting the like button, don't just be here for the likes. I used to just be there for the likes. Like I just used to like post like the prettiest travel photos and I'd say something stupid like, I don't know, Monday fun day, or these are the kind of Monday blues I love, just nothing like really substantial, because I thought that that's how you dominate on Instagram, with just pretty pictures. But I find that Instagram is about storytelling. So every image that you post should have a story behind it. And that's not to say that like every single caption you write has to be super long-winded, but most of mine are. Like I use every single photo that I post as an opportunity to educate. So, like I said, like that's something I'm really focused on right now is like really using my platform to educate. And so every single time I post something, I know I have the opportunity to teach them something new. And I find that really works for me, because it serves my goal. My business goal right now is to, create an impact to help educate people. And two, it helps people get to know you deeper. I find that, a lot of influencers who just kind of stay at the surface of just posting pretty pictures, but don't let people in, they struggle a little bit more because people don't really know who you are. And so people really just kind of, it's all about the likes for, people like that. It's people just kind of scroll through, hit the like button and keep it moving. But if you don't write something that's going to make people stop, right? Like the photo is kind of like what makes people hit the like button, but your caption's what's going to get them to stay and to want to get to know you more. So, I'd say a good strategy for Instagram is not just focusing on, taking a pretty picture, but to also, tell a story with it. And then for YouTube, even though like video production is my thing, YouTube is so involved. There are so many steps to YouTube. Like my ultimate goal is to be able to post twice a week, but it's very challenging. I find the best way to be able to dominate on YouTube is if you learn how to batch create, meaning you shoot multiple types of content or multiple videos at once. And so in order to do that for me, because I'm not traveling anymore, and I'm mostly, sharing lifestyle content, I have to write scripts for a lot of these things. So it really begins with, taking one day to write, several scripts at once, and then choosing another day to sit down and record all of those videos of the scripts that you just wrote, and then taking another day to edit everything. So when you start batch creating, then you're kind of like, you're making the process go a lot quicker, and you can start scheduling your content versus like rushing at the last minute to get a video out there. And it used to be that it was all about like the subscribers, right? So people were creating content to try to get more subscribers. But now I find if you don't focus on the subscribers and you just focus on putting out really good content, your videos will get seen and you will get subscribers just based off of like your really good videos. It's not really about like you don't have to have a ton of subscribers anymore to get sponsored or to get your videos seen. Now, like the algorithm is kind of designed so that if your content just happens to be really good and it happens to be a hot topic, then it's going to be recommended and it's going to start showing up in, people's like feeds and stuff. So it doesn't have anything to do with your subscriber count anymore.
Okay, I'm glad you broke that down a bit because I know I'm writing an article now. There's a lot of people who are going to start moving into like the digital space right now. People are going to try to be their own brands. And I have a strong feeling people are going to be kind of overwhelmed really fast. Like, what tip would you give somebody who wants to get into that space, either for their job or for themselves?
First of all, don't be afraid to invest in education, right? Because I know it can be easy to just, if you like just watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you might just go down a rabbit hole. Don't be afraid to like go on Udemy and like download a course and to like really understand like how to use a specific platform. So if you really want to get good at YouTube, you know, find a really good course that walks you through how to dominate on YouTube. Find a good course on, you know, Udemy that teaches you how to dominate on Instagram. So kind of start there with like educating yourself. Because if you like try to rely on like a ton of different articles and a ton of different YouTube videos, it might be all over the place and you might not even know what to look for. So if it's a platform that you really don't even know the first thing about, like video production can be really scary for people.
Yeah.
Take a course, because that way you'll have like a bunch of information in one place to help you like learn the things that you didn't even know that you didn't know. Because, you know, my husband always says, he's like, there are things you don't know. There are things you know, there are things you don't know, and then there are things you don't even know you don't know. So I find that with video production, of course, there's going to be a lot of things that you didn't even know was a thing or that you needed to know. So I think a course would be really helpful for those people. And then like take your time with it. Like take your time to really understand which platform would be best for you. Don't try to do all of them, because then your attentions is going to be split. Like I find that I'm the most successful when I put my all into really focusing on something that I know is going to do well versus trying to be great at a bunch of different things. Like for me, if I know I'm not that if I know my ministry isn't Twitter, it's not Facebook, I'm not going to invest all my time and money into, you know, trying to be great at Twitter and trying to be great at Facebook when I know Instagram is where I'm killing it, when I know YouTube is where I can reach a ton of people. So I'm going to focus on really trying to get great at those two. And then just having a presence in the other areas. You don't feel pressured to have to be everywhere at one time. So, you know, really think about the strategies of your business, what you're trying to accomplish, and which platform would be able to better serve your community. Because maybe your audience isn't really on Twitter. Maybe your audience really isn't on Facebook, but they're all on Instagram or they're all on YouTube. They can really benefit from informational videos, you know? So you really have to look at your business goals as, you know, a brand or as an influencer, as a creator, and figure out where my particular audience would best be served if I joined right now. If I'm looking for an audience, if I'm looking for a platform right now to hop on, which one would be best for my audience and my goals?
Okay, I want to ask one thing about that in particular, which is you had a pretty good digital media studio and then you decided to shut that down. So yes. Why did that happen?
Like I said, I think my goals kind of change every year. So when I first quit my job, I hadn't yet fully developed my brand to a point where I felt like I could make a living strictly off my brand. So I decided I would kind of incorporate the philosophy of the multiple streams of income model where, you know, as I was working on my brand and making a little bit of money on that, I would start another stream of income, which for me was a video production company. And so if you look at like some of like the richest people in the world, who are like known for like really amazing businesses, like Elon Musk, right? You know, when you think of him, what do you think of?
Yeah, he's got like Tesla and SpaceX and all of that. So
yes, Tesla and SpaceX, those are his passions. That's what he really wanted to do. That's what he wanted to be known for. Like he's all about sustainability. He wanted to create businesses that would help, you know, transition the world to a sustainable future. So electric cars, you know, spaceships, stuff like that, solar. You know, those are his passions. But did you know he started PayPal?
Yeah, PayPal Mafia. Yeah,
exactly. That's not something that he like cared about. That didn't have anything to do with his long-term goals, but it was a great idea, and he knew he'd make a lot of money off of it. So sometimes you have to start businesses to fund your bigger dreams. And so for me, I started a video production company, TL Digital Studios. It wasn't something that I saw myself doing long term, but I knew that it was going to bring in that coin. I knew it was one of those industries that, you know, everybody needed video. I knew it was an industry that I could capitalize off of because that's what my entire corporate background was built on. It was built on the video production industry. So I had all the skill sets. I knew how to be on camera. I knew how to be behind the camera. I knew how to edit. I knew how to produce. I knew how to film. It was something that I could safely do as a one-man show if I needed to, if I couldn't find like a team. And so I was able to tap into that and use my connections and, you know, get all of these like video clients, big and small, who needed video, because everybody in this age, in this day and age, needs video. So it's one of those industries that I knew would be able to keep me afloat and fund my bigger goal of starting my own brand, which we all know today as Hey Ashley Renee, but back then it was called Travel Luscious because travel was my niche. So I started this, you know, video production company, and I think it lasted from, let's see, I started it in 2017, at the end of 2017 when I quit my job. And then I dissolved it in 2019. And the reason why I dissolved it is because 2019 is when my personal brand really took off. And sometimes you just have to make a grown man decision, a grown-up decision. And even if something's really good and is bringing in money, if you have an opportunity to have something else really take off that you're really passionate about, but you know you can't do it if you have this other thing in your way, then you have to make the decision, okay, what do I want more? And I got to that crossroads where I had to make a decision. Do I want to play it safe and continue with TL Digital Studios, which I know is guaranteed money? Or do I want to completely let go of that and go full force with Hey Ashley Renee, which I see a lot of potential for scaling very quickly, you know, in 2019, but only if I put all of my attention to it, because I couldn't do both. I just couldn't. Like, I just did not have the capacity or the brain power to commit to both of those, because those were both very time consuming, you know, businesses. So I took the leap of faith and I let go of the video production company, and it ended up being the best decision that I made, because I don't think I would have ever been able to hit six figures if I hadn't let go of TL Digital Studios, because I would have been splitting my attention between two different businesses, and then I would have been half-assing both. But because I put my full attention into one, I was able to maximize its potential and really hit my revenue goals for 2019. So that was really exciting, and I'm glad I made that decision.
Okay, I like that. And so I want to ask you, because again, some people are going to be here because, you know, they just either got let off their job or they realized they need a second income due to COVID-19. Where do you see the space going in that regard?
Which space?
The digital creator space.
Oh, it's going to blow up, I think, even more than it ever has been before, because now we're in a situation where people are looking for ways to find information, to be entertained, to, you know, to be educated, because the competition has completely like almost been eradicated. People aren't leaving the house to go do things. Their attention isn't being, you know, divided because they're so busy doing other things. They're in their homes and they're looking for things to do. So the digital space is booming. I'm sure Netflix streaming is like going crazy right now, and that's technically a digital platform, right? So there's so many ways to really take this and run with it. If you're looking to create some kind of digital product, if you're looking to, you know, become some kind of online personality, if you're looking to develop, you know, digital resources that are educational, there's a lot of opportunity in the online space. And right now is the time to do it, because everybody's online right now. Everybody's online right now. And so it's perfect for me. It was perfect timing for me, because like I told you, it's like almost like every year my business goals change. So 2019, you know, my focus was on getting brand deals, but 2020 was my year for creating digital products, because I wanted to get outside of my comfort zone of B2B type business deals, where like I'm, you know, I have clients that I'm creating like digital services for in terms of advertising, you know, their brands on my page. And I wanted to kind of move into more of a B2C model, where now that I'm like really focusing on having an impact, how can I create tools and resources to help my community? So it ended up being perfect timing because, you know, now with COVID happening, and less brands have the budgets to pay influencers anyway. Now, like that whole idea and that whole strategy for me to create products and services, digital products and services, it's perfect right now because that's what people need. And so I truly believe that if you can learn how to pivot and switch your strategy to adjust to what's happening right now, you will survive, you will dominate, you will really thrive in this current climate. So create those digital products and develop your digital presence right now. It's important.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you one thing in particular before I know you got to get going. But all right. So everyone is still like I'm on a bunch of different boards. Like a lot of people hit me up. Everyone wants to grow their follower count because they think that if they have a bigger follower account, then they'll get either more money or more influence. What do you want to speak to about that?
Yeah, can I talk about that real quick? Because I don't want people to make the same mistake that I did. When I first got into this space, I was all about the followers. But can I tell you that followers don't mean anything? Anybody can grow a following. Anybody. That doesn't make you special. A following is different from having a community. So, and I try to tell people, and I explain this to people all the time, if you're an influencer and say you only have 500 followers, right? You might be more valuable to a brand than, say, an influencer with 1 million followers, because even though you only have 500 followers, if you are somebody who was able to turn those 500 followers into a community, one that you've been able to develop like an authentic, you know, voice with and connection with, where you're talking to them all the time and you have like a personal relationship with your audience, you have more value than someone with 1 million followers who doesn't respond to their people's questions and doesn't respond to people's, you know, comments. And, you know, I went to a summit. Her name is Glow from the Blog Abroad. And she's an online business coach now. She had Kev on stage as one of her speakers. And Kev on stage was saying that one time he paid an influencer who had like millions of followers to sell like a $3 ebook of his or some kind of $3 product that he had. He said this person did not make one sale. He's like, this person had millions of followers and couldn't sell a $3 product. Do not focus on followers because followers don't mean a single thing. Community is everything. Focus on building community. And so that's where I'm at. Like, that's where I'm really, really focused on. I'm focused on building relationships with the people in my community. I don't call them my followers. I refuse to call the people who follow me my followers because I don't look at them as just a number. Whereas when I first started, I was like, I just got to get a bunch of followers. But if you're just focusing on getting a bunch of followers, these aren't people who are going to buy your product when you have something to sell. These aren't people who are going to care about the message that you have to send when you have something real that you want to share and you want to make a difference. You want to focus on the people who really want to hear what you have to say. And that means building a community. So focus on community. Do not focus on followers.
I like that. And so what's going on with you that people should know about?
Well, like I said, I've kind of, you know, pivoted this year. And so I'm really focused on creating products and services that can help people. And so my latest, product or service that I'm working on now, which is so relevant to, I guess, the topic of our podcast, is how to help people pivot. And I was a little nervous about doing this because it's very outside of my comfort zone. You know, I'm very much a creative. Like I said, I've always followed more of a B2B model where I've worked with, you know, brands and businesses, but I've never worked with, you know, actual like people, like consumers. But I realized that if I want to make an impact, then I have to switch to a B2C model. So I want to work with like people in my community or people who are just interested in, you know, learning what it is I have to share. And so for this first product that I'm launching, it's going to be a course that is specifically designed to help people in these weird times, like people who may feel like they need to rebrand, or not even just rebrand, but maybe just expand. So I call it like rebranding and expanding. So it's not even just about rebranding, but like for me, like I didn't completely rebrand. It wasn't just eliminating travel completely, but it was more so expanding what I was talking about. So it's just teaching people like how to pivot in times like this and to, you know, kind of create something that is long lasting, that's sustainable, and can reach more people.
I like that. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
Ash, how can people get in contact with you?
For right now, they can hit me up on Instagram. That's HeyAshleyRenne. If they're not on Instagram, that's cool. You can find my content on YouTube. You can send me an email, ashley@heyashleyRenne.com. You can go to my website, www.HeyAshleyRenne.com. It's HeyAshleyRenne on all social media platforms, but there's like a million ways to reach me. If you just hit me up on any of those platforms or send me an email directly, you can reach me.
All right, cool. I like that. And so this is one of my favorite people to have. And so I never get a chance to talk to people I actually know on this. And so I'm actually glad to have you here. We're definitely talking online in a second. But once again, you guys, thanks to Ashley Renee. She is seriously, I cannot stress this enough. If you really want to just get a good idea on how to get your YouTube channel game up, how to get your Instagram game, or even how to be a digital creator, I say go check out her content online. Check it out on YouTube. Check it out on her Instagram. You can see her at Hey Ashley Renee. It is really good. I use it all the time as a reference for other people, other businesses on what to do. And so she's really just like giving the tip of the iceberg of the things that she knows. If you want to learn more about what she's doing, for sure, I hit her up. And once again, you're listening to my podcast. This is King Williams. You're probably hearing this podcast either on YouTube or SoundCloud or iTunes. So wherever you hear that, like it, subscribe it. It definitely helps the podcast. And once again, I am King Williams. If you have not done it so already, please sign up for my newsletter at iamkingwilliams.substack.com. Again, iamkingwilliams.substack.com. Thank you.
I subscribed.
Yay. All right. Thank you so much.